okay on this end. So welcome. Hey everyone. Tonight we're going to be talking about the importance of living a healthy lifestyle, and we both have really committed ourselves over the years to a healthy lifestyle. And you might be going, okay, that's cool for you. Is it really possible for me, or why is that even important? And so we're going to talk a little bit about that, because we do think that it is really important, and we think that it's worth it. It's worth your time, it's worth your effort, it's worth your focus. And so anyways, we're going to talk a little bit about living a healthy lifestyle tonight. So you have anything to say before we get started?
I don't think so.
Okay, awesome. So when you say healthy lifestyle, or when I say that, I don't know about you, but I think of things like, eating or sleeping, what we're consuming, and exercise, of course. But it really goes deeper than that. What kind of choices are you making every day? No matter how small or how big, they can really affect your overall life, your overall enjoyment of your life, the way that you, how much energy you have, and things like that. And so, especially, I feel like, I don't know about you, Matt, but I feel like especially these days with social media, sometimes being this draining thing instead of something that fills us up, sometimes it drains us of energy or of time or of focus, and instead of lifting us up. And so having really clear boundaries in your life is really important too, when it comes to these things. So do you want to talk a little bit more about like kind of each of these subjects and kind of go from there? So with eating, what are some things for you that are important, would you say, when it comes to eating just in general? How does that affect your lifestyle, that sort of thing?
Well, I mean, I think, there's this saying, garbage in, garbage out, that applies to a lot of different areas of our life, and it certainly applies to our diet. And I think, the important thing is Americans are so focused on diets and fads and quick fixes, and, that's just not really sustainable to be constantly dieting and trying these new things, which some, if you've experienced, some can be extremely harmful if you don't know what you're doing, and can really detract from your health as opposed to really help you and fix your health. So I think really trying to, all of what we're talking about is like a lifestyle, not just a quick fix, not just 30 days, not just 3 months, not just getting ready for your beach vacation, getting your summer body. It's a lifestyle that you're going to be able to sustain from, from now until forever. Yeah. And that's really going to set you up for that no more some days life, because the key to there not being any more some days is that you have a next day, and that you're going to be here down the road. And like a lot of it, I mean, we just see with the disease and the unhealthiness of a lot of Americans, that's just not how a lot of us live. We don't have that. Yeah. And so I think for me, like I mentioned, I've always struggled with eating and healthy eating, because it's important to understand too, different families, different cultures approach food differently. Sometimes we approach food from a standpoint of, when we celebrate, when we get together, we have a lot of awesome food at cookouts, at church potlucks. There's an abundance of food, which is really great. But unfortunately, a lot of it may not be healthy, but that's how we celebrate birthdays, anniversaries, on the weekend, everything. And then also the opposite, when we're upset or when we've, suffered a loss or emotional eating, then we go to food as well. And so we have this unhealthy relationship with food, that we go to it for when we're happy and we go to it when we're sad. And so really kind of understanding what your relationship is with food and how you've been brought up, I think is really important. To at first understanding what your relationship with food is before you can really determine how you're going to move forward. But I think at least for me, I don't know about, I'll give you some very specifics maybe. And again, we're not dietitians or anything. We're just talking, speaking about our personal experience. I really try to limit, at least especially recently, limiting my eating at night and only eating about till 8 or 8:30 at night, and then doing what they call intermittent fasting till about noon the next day, and really having that feeding window where you're only eating your meals and you're eating healthy meals, whole food meals, not a lot of processed foods, really focusing on the quality of the food, not the quantity. So making sure you're getting your proteins and your fats and your vegetables. And I think another thing, like everybody needs to do their own research on this and what really their bodies are going to be work with, because the truth is our genetics are different and sometimes our bodies work better on different kinds of foods.
Yes,
but that's why I think the important thing is that we focus on whole foods, foods that aren't processed. If we can, we know the source,
right.
That are going to be really healthy and have the ingredients and nutrients that our bodies need.
Yeah, so true. And I think I just resonate so much. I feel like we're on the same page with that so much that we really want to find the right fit for our bodies and our lifestyles. And some things that may work for me may not work for Matt, and vice versa as well. And there's so much out there, I realize too, but just start doing research. You know, I think sometimes we go, there's so much out there, I just don't know where to start. Start maybe with some of the things that Matt said, like start trying to eliminate a lot of foods that are heavily processed. Another one is just start eliminating a lot of sugar and things like that in your life. Sugar is so addictive and we don't even realize the kind of hold that it has on us. I know I'm a perfect example of that. I was eating so much sugar, so many processed things, especially when Matt and I met. That's what I gravitate toward. It's not necessarily what my mom fed me. It's just what I gravitate toward. And so I had to realize like that was not serving my body. That was actually, I was feeling worse after eating that kind of stuff. I was feeling drained. I was, not able to focus well, things like that. I wanted to sleep more instead of feeling energized and excited and felt like I had the energy to do what I needed to be able to do. And so one thing too, that's a little tip that Matt and I tend to do is we just try not to keep things in the house that we know are going to be problematic. And this has happened over the years where one of us will go to the store, it's usually me, and get like some Oreos or something that is just, it's like it's calling your name from the cabinet. Matt, hello, eat me. Meg, hello, I'm here. I'm chocolate. And so just things that you already know aren't gonna be great for your body, just try not to keep those around. And be okay with letting go of them and throwing them away if need be.
Yeah, and I think another thing we've tried to do in that vein is if we are going to splurge, because we are not like 100% not eating anything bad, but we particularly have a weakness for ice cream. And so when we do splurge, even though it's more expensive, we get the little individual, what we're calling individual sizes. And instead of getting the big pint, I guess, we won't buy that even though it's a lot cheaper. We'll buy 2 individual ones because we know we're going to eat it and be done with it. And speaking to that addiction, if there's that whole thing of ice cream in the freezer, I know that I'm going to eat it. And I think sometimes we get down on ourselves because we say, oh, I must just not have the willpower. I wasn't strong enough to resist that.
Right.
But the thing you want to think about is you want to make the system so that you don't have to make those decisions. Right. Make the system easy for you to make the right decisions.
So true.
And so the easy thing, like Megan was saying there, is we try not to bring those into the house. And when we do, we know it's like a 1-serving thing. It's a splurge on the weekend, or it's a splurge after, you've done a race or accomplished something, and you've determined this is my one time to splurge on something I want, and then it's going to be done for the next week.
Right.
So really putting in place those systems to make it easy for you to make the right decision and make it easy for you to achieve. Because again, going back to that emotion, at least for me, when I do eat something bad or I do slip up, then I feel really badly about myself, and that feeling persists not just that one time. Then the next day I'm wondering, wow, how did I screw that up? I was planning on doing such and such, and then that can lead to either more emotional eating or just emotional feeling bad in other areas. So making these systems, making it easy for us to make the right decisions is really going to help you make the right decisions with what you eat.
Yeah, so true. And it reminds me of this saying, if you're not already familiar, I have a business with Arbonne, and we have this incredible 30-day program that's teaching you about a lifestyle. It's not about a quick fix. It's about changing your decisions, making it easy to make the right decisions on a long-term basis, making it about most of the time you're making great decisions for your body. And one of the things that I'm always reminding people. I've coached almost 30 people through this program, and one thing I'm always reminding them is one moment, one decision does not define how you're doing. And it reminds me of this, something I heard the other day, that one bad day doesn't make a week, and one bad week doesn't make a month, and one bad month doesn't make a year, and so on. You know, sometimes we make one bad decision or one bad day into this whole big blow up, and it's like, well, I just got to throw this out and start again. No, you don't. You can choose to put a system in place to make it easier for you to make a better decision the next time. Or you can, you know, say, okay, I ate the Cheetos and now I'm going to throw the bag away, or I'm going to give it away, and be done with it and not feel bad about it. And then just move on to the next right decision, the next right thing. And that's what we've done. We're no better than anyone else. We are literally not. We've just tried to make it easier for ourselves to say no, or to not even have it as an option, you know? So please don't think that this is us saying like, we've got it all together. We don't. These are just some things that we've noticed that work for us, because otherwise we would not be where we want to be, or not even close, you know? And so it's continually about a daily decision.
Yeah, and I think like if you're in a position where you have a family, or at least you're married, like starting to set those systems up now, making it like changing. If you come from a family where that you have this these battles between the emotional eating, the good and the bad, changing that to where instead of we're going to have a huge cake and a huge celebration if your kid, you know, gets a good grade, well, is there something that you can make together that is healthy, that is a treat, but maybe a fruit smoothie, or, you know, something. I don't want it to be like you get some carrots for doing it, something. Nobody wants that. But we're so stuck in this thing that, oh, you can't have things that taste great and are a treat. Like there's still plenty of things you can eat that are healthy, so at least healthier. And it's setting those boundaries and those limits up front to where you don't have to have an extra large blizzard from Dairy Queen to have a good time, you know. So setting those rewards and those systems up in place as early as possible, and leading your family in that, because it's going to be, at least for some people, it's going to be a battle their whole life, and trying to put things in place to make it easy, like we said, and change the perspective of reward and punishment. The earlier you can do that, the better.
Yeah, and I think sometimes our celebrations or our rewards are so centered around food, and that can definitely still be a part of the process. But what if you did it, like went on an adventure, or you went to one of those, what are those, like bouncy places, like the, you know, like the trampoline places or something, you know, like what if we went to the trampoline place when you accomplish this, instead of getting a Krispy Kreme donut, which was often a motivator for me. But you know what I'm saying? Like instead of surrounding it with food associations, you could have that be a part of it, and then have other things that are that really are the reward, you know, or really are like memory makers or something like that, instead of driving to the local place where you get your, we call it the Dairy Whip or whatever, that you walk over, and then you get a little cone, and then you walk back or whatever. So having things that are surrounding celebrations or occasions that aren't necessarily just solely focused on food, but that can just be one aspect of it that's part of the celebration. So that kind of brings me to exercise, because exercise is a really big one as well. And I think sometimes, I don't know about you, Matt, but I think I sometimes get in my head, or in the past I have at least, that I have to like run a marathon, or have to do some really big activity like 5-6 days a week to really be where I want to be. And that's, at least for us, we found that that's not necessarily true. That you can do something a little bit every day that would help you get toward your goals, and that's a lot more sustainable and doable than trying to do a huge workout 7 days a week, you know, and trying to make it something that is a system, kind of like we were saying with food, have a system in place, and be willing to have something that's a little bit or more doable to be able to accomplish, and then maybe work up and build up to something. And a good example of that in my life is I had told myself for a long time I couldn't run. Not to say that I'm not physically like able, if you asked me go run, I could run. It was more like I was concerned about high impact because I have an autoimmune disease. And so I thought there's just no way. And of course you always want to consult your doctor. You always want to make sure that things are the right fit for you. But I realized that a lot of what I was thinking was probably just my own limitation that I was giving myself. It wasn't necessarily based on reality. And so last fall, I decided that I wanted to run a 5K. And I had done it sort of once before, but not really training. So I wanted to actually train for one. And then my next goal, I had already had a second goal planned that I wanted to run a 10K a few months after that. So I started training last fall, and then I ended up running a 5K in February 1st, and it went really well. Not necessarily, I wasn't focusing on time, but it just went really well from the standpoint of I trained a lot and I felt really good about it as opposed to the first time. And I worked up to it. There's an app that you can use called Couch to 5K, or there's a billion of them, and you can just work up to the 5K. And then now I'm trying to work up to that 10K. And I've gotten up to about 4.5 or so miles. But the important thing isn't necessarily that, I get to where, I get to the 10K or the half marathon, or etc. immediately. What it was important for me to focus on was a few times a week, I turn on my app and I get out there and I do the exercise. And I make it doable for me to achieve that goal, measurable, right? Instead of just a nebulous thing, run for 5 minutes and hope everything turns out okay. No, like have the app, have something that I can measure and make sure that I know that I'm training using the app and getting out a few times a week. And that can add up to something really powerful and big, even though I wasn't doing this huge thing every day. So I think sometimes we look at exercise and we think it has to be this huge thing and it has to be every day or most every day. And really it could be a few times a week or most days a week, and it could be modified or something even smaller than you're thinking that's really doable that can get you to where you want to go.
Yeah, I think
that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it really depends on what your goals are, because if your goals are to if you're really into running or really want to have a goal of participating in a certain sport or achieve certain things, then you are going to have to devote more time to those.
Right.
But if you just want to be healthy and be able to enjoy time with your family and be able to be mobile and play games with your family and your kids and not have to worry about getting out of breath and things like that, then you really need to, of course, like through all of this, you need to know what your why is. Why am I doing these things? Why is it important for me to be healthy? I do think, yes, there is we think that we have to devote 2 hours a day in the gym or something, and there's also this stigma of, hardly anybody, unless they're really into sports or really into working out, is like just pumped about exercising. So you need to take it outside of that realm and figure out, well, really, what is exercise? What can I do to be healthy? And what activities can I do that are going to fit into that to keep me moving? And really, what is exercise is movement, exercise is motion, it's mobility. So it's not necessarily I go run hard on a treadmill for 30 minutes. Can I instead play basketball for 30 minutes? Can I play whatever the ultimate frisbee is? Can I go for a walk with my dog, with my kids? Can I jog with a stroller? Can I do martial arts? There's a million things you can do to move and, get out of the office, whatever it is, get off the couch and move. That's exercise, that's movement. One thing that somebody that I listened to a podcast, they say like everything counts, because we have this idea, like Megan said, that you have to be in the gym 2 hours. Well, no, I can get up from my desk in the office and do jumping jacks for 2 minutes. That counts. I can get up from my desk an hour or two later, get a kettlebell and do some squats for 20 squats. And you stack these on throughout the day. So yeah, maybe I don't have 2 hours to go to the gym or even an hour to go to the gym, but I can do 2 or 3 minutes at a time and then go for like a 20-minute walk after dinner.
So true.
And I've exercised. Yeah. And that matters. And you build that confidence and you stack those wins on top of each other.
Yes.
And so again, if you have this, like we talked about with food, exercise also has a negative stigma. I know some people are, growing up, if you are in trouble, okay, you got to go run around the house, or you got to go run a lap, or at school you're in trouble, go run. Or if you're in sports and you run the play wrong, okay, go run around the track. So some of us have that stigma too, that exercise is bad.
Right.
And so trying to change that, especially with if you have kids or are going to have kids, that no, movement, God made our bodies to move. I mean, look at your body. It's designed to move. It's designed to function. It's designed to run, to play. And that is another powerful thing, I think, is exercise is play. Exercise is enjoyment. It's not this thing that we do to punish ourselves. It's something that God gives us, our bodies, to move and enjoy and, go for hikes. I mean, look around wherever you live. I mean, there's beauty there. Exercise is having a rope swing and swinging in your backyard. Exercise is picking up a rock and walking with it and enjoying and feeling that power that God has given you in your body to move something. And instead, so many of us have this negative emotion tied to it. And so I think if we can change that, that can be really powerful for us, especially if you've had some negative associations with exercise. And again, like Megan said, you can start small. Don't feel like I have to, if you haven't exercised in a while, you have to go do some big feat. No, start walking around the block once or twice a day.
Something you can achieve, like don't make it something that's like, I don't even know how I could ever get there. You'll get there maybe eventually, but start with something that you feel like you can do. And for me, with running, it wasn't that I didn't love to run. I actually love running, and my brother put on here that he loved running with us. I actually used to run with him some too when he was training in high school, and occasionally other times we've both run with him, and it's super fun. But when you have a running partner or somebody to run with you, when you're doing something that you love to do, like Matt was saying, maybe you don't love running. I know there's plenty of people who don't love it. I love it because it feels like I'm flying. And other people like doing some of the things that he mentioned. That's fine. Find something that you love to do and then do some of that every day or most every day or a few times a week. And then find some friends who want to do that with you or whatever. And you can keep each other accountable, or you can do that thing together. Matt has a group of guys that he'll play basketball with once or twice a week, and that's a recharge for him, and it's exciting, it's fun. He gets to spend time with other people, and he gets to get some exercise in. So it's a great thing. And just moving in general, don't underestimate that. I think is the importance there.
And I think combining, a lot of people also think that they can out exercise a bad diet. And that's just not possible. Your diet is, like, if you had to pick one, your diet is going to fuel how you feel and your ability and your overall health more than working out.
Yes.
So make sure don't fool yourself to think I can eat whatever I want and I can go in the gym. And what's even more dangerous is, especially for younger guys, I think they believe that because their metabolism is so fast, and growing up in high school, they've been able to eat what they want, they've been active, and then 25, 30, 35 hits, and they're still eating whatever they want, they're not exercising, and they're surprised that they've gained 20, 50 pounds. And that's why the earlier you can set up those systems that you're going to eat healthy regardless, you're going to exercise regardless, is going to be more important, because a lot of people, I never had that metabolism, but a lot of people I know did have super fast metabolism, but then all of a sudden, like, a certain age hits and it's gone. And you can't fool yourself into thinking you can eat whatever you want and exercise and it's going to be fine, because it's just not the case.
It's not sustainable. And really, yes, it's when people say you are what you eat, I mean, it's so true. Most of what you want your life, your eating life to look like is going to be a bigger decision bigger decider. It counts for more like 80%. So let's talk about what we're consuming, because what we're consuming is also affecting our day-to-day, even like our mental attitude. And I don't just mean eating. Of course, what we eat can affect our gut health, which can affect the proper hormones being released so that we can feel more happy, get those, endorphins whenever we're working out, things like that. But what we consume is so important as far as just mentally and with our eyes. God talks about that a lot in scripture, and we even have that song for children, like careful little eyes what you see and ears what you hear and feet where you go, and all of those things that what we're watching on the TV, what we're listening to with podcasts and with other influencing venues, what we're looking at with social media or with the books that we're reading, those magazines, if you're reading magazines, whatever it is that you're consuming mentally is going to affect you, and it's going to affect your heart. And what we're all about is, protecting our heart and guarding it. And a big part of this, especially with No More Some Days, is if you want to achieve these really big goals, you're going to have to protect your focus, and you're going to have to protect your heart, because a lot of people, unknowingly usually, want to take that focus, want to take those dreams away from you, because they maybe don't see it for themselves or whatever it is. And unfortunately, that can be very discouraging and get you off of your path. And so what we want to do, and what we strive to do ourselves, is really protect that focus. Another big one I was just thinking of is music. What music we're listening to. Being super choosy about that is really important as well. And I know both of us, we've made shifts throughout our lives to try to make sure that what we are consuming is helpful for us, for our goals. Who we're listening to contributes to how we think and what we say and how we act. And if we are consuming information and listening to people that are negative or bad influences, that's going to start to come out of us and really affect us in a negative way. So I think we both made that a priority as well, and have made good changes in that, and we encourage other people to do the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think we just have to be really choosy on what we let into our homes. I mean, you wouldn't let poison come into your home. You wouldn't let somebody who is saying really negative, hurtful things to your family. You wouldn't let them open the door and come in.
Right.
And yet, we open our phone and we get on Twitter, and there's just poison, regardless of if it's it doesn't have to be like pornography or something that's just straight up evil. It can just be this poison on social media that we see, especially today. A lot of people are talking about different things, whether it's politics or whatever it is, and there's just a lot of vitriol, and that you can feel it. If you've been on social media for a couple hours in a day, you feel this dirty, you feel icky, you feel like, my mind, I can't even think clearly. And so we have to be really smart and really tactical about what we're listening to and watching. And for me specifically, if you struggle at all with either self-doubt and confidence, you need to be even more careful that you're making sure that you're listening to people that are putting life into you, whether that's, of course, obviously you need to be listening to scripture and reading scripture, whether that's sermons you listen to, whether that's motivational podcasts. But I notice when I'm focused and when I'm on point and listening to like affirming things, positive things, that will help me through the day a lot more than if I don't make a focus on doing that every day. And so I think we have to be really, not just we have to be really intuitive with our bodies, with how they are physically, but then how they are mentally, and catching ourselves. Monday is a big day where we jump back into work for most of us, really checking in with yourself in the morning and seeing, how am I feeling? What do I need to focus on and to help me get through the day mentally and physically? And then doing that instead of logging into your social media in the morning, listening to a Bible reading or a positive podcast. And I have some tracks that are more like spoken word motivational, people like Eric Thomas, and it really puts at least me in the right mindset instead of all of the negativity and things that are dragging me down. So really focusing on things that speak life into you instead of take life from you, because really, if you think about it, if you break it down, what bad food is taking life away from us. Inactivity is taking life away from us. Putting things mentally that are negative is really taking life away from you. it literally is. I mean, look at studies, look at things. We know that food, is poisoning us if we're putting bad things into our bodies, but mentally, that's also taking life away from us.
Yeah, so true. And, I think about that too, as if you want to be somebody, like both of us, we want to be somebody that can pour into other people and serve other people and love on them. And how can you do that if you have nothing to give, right? I love something that Jim Rohn would talk about with, he always had this saying, of course. And so he would talk about, he would have an empty glass sitting on a table, and he would say, okay, now can this empty glass, can this completely full glass, can I pour more water into it? So it was completely full to the brim. Can I pour more water into it? And he would say, of course. And I'm going, well, but it's full. And he goes, you pour it out, and then you can pour more into the glass. And so a lot of the time, if you want to be somebody who's a leader and you want to be somebody who's influential in people's lives, and help serve them, you've got to remember that you've got to keep continually pouring water, in this analogy, pouring life into yourself so that you have something to pour out to others. And it's so important, because what you consume is a huge part. What's being poured into you is a huge part of what you feel like you can pour out into other people. And I don't know about you guys, and I think Mal would agree with me on this, is, for example, if I'm consuming a lot of negative things on social media, it's very difficult for me to then go and pour wonderful, beautiful things onto other people, right? And pour life into them, because I feel depleted myself. I feel empty, and so I feel like it's hard for me to go and pour into someone else.
I'm going to butcher this, but there's a verse along the lines of you can't have, fresh and salt water from the same spring, from the same well. So it doesn't mix. You're either the fresh or the salt water, and it's a battle. I mean, we can't pretend it's not, because social media can be a blessing. What we're doing now can be a blessing.
Yes, absolutely.
But if you're not filtering that, if you're not curating your feeds and really being intentional about what you're letting in, it's really going to be a detriment. And there is this. I think we talked about sugar addiction. There can be an addiction to the news and what just happened now, oh, who said Trump said this, oh, somebody else said this, what did they say? And there's this addiction to our news feed, and our minds get so tough. We refresh our Facebook, we refresh our Twitter, we refresh our Instagram, and it's programming our minds to be like addicted to that. And we have to be so careful that we're not letting that happen, because if all we're doing is being on social media, we're not getting the things done that we need to get done.
Right. And
we're not really living in the reality that we need to live in, and it can just be incredibly dangerous. And that's speaking from personal experience.
Oh yeah, for sure. And there are things that you can do, right? You're not helpless. You can delete certain apps from your phone. You can delete your Facebook, for example, app from your phone, and just be on Facebook when you're on your laptop or your iPad or whatever. You can have different apps that will time you and tell you how much time that you have on certain apps, and warn you about that. There are boundaries that you can set. You can set timers. A lot of us have Alexas, or you can even just go to a Google timer, or your phone can be a timer. And so easily set timers to be able to have a limit on those times, because really, if we want to have a life we don't want to escape from, we don't want to have to escape through social media from this life. We want our time on social media, hopefully, to be adding life to you in general, and to be an encouraging thing in general. And for us, we do not consume a lot of news in general, just for that very reason. We're just trying to limit and inform ourselves, but limit that exposure, because a lot of the time that can be a negative influence. So then the last thing that we were going to talk about is sleep. And sleep is so, so important. I was just reading an incredible book called Essentialism by Greg McKeown, I think is how you say his name. And he was talking about the importance of sleep, and how when you don't get enough sleep, you're actually functioning as if you are have a certain blood alcohol level. So like you're partially a little bit intoxicated. And so if we were partially intoxicated, we wouldn't work at our best, right? We wouldn't be functioning at our highest. And so what makes you think that with sleep we can do something different there, right? And so that's really been striking me, because even though I'm somebody who's not drinking, I sometimes don't get enough sleep, and I don't necessarily always put the importance on that I need to be. But think about how much more of a fulfilled life you can live, and a more energized life that is giving back and serving and starting to meet these goals of the no more someday goals, that we're actually going to go after the things that we want. How much more can we show up when we're getting the sleep that we need, and then it's helping our day-to-day life to be just better and add to that. And there's so many things that you can do to have a better sleep habits. Go to bed and wake up at the same time every day. Log that. Matt is really wonderful about logging things. You can log and see your sleep patterns. There's even apps that you can download that help you with getting to sleep, falling to sleep. There's apps that you can help like to track your sleep. There's all sorts of things that you can do, and systems you can put into place. You can even have a morning routine and an evening routine, something that helps calm your mind down. I know for us, trying to limit our social media time or any kind of time on your phone is really key, because it's stimulating your brain. So you want to try to do that like an hour or so before you go to bed, to just wind that down and look at a book, or have some meditation or prayer time, or journal. Have those times right before bed, and things like that. So again, that's helping us to wind down and have better routines so that we can live a fuller life.
Yeah, I mean, you need to try to, that we don't have a TV in our bedroom. You know, your bedroom is for sleeping and other stuff. And
we're going there apparently.
So you just need to be careful with, that's why we were really intentional. One, we didn't want a lot of TVs in our house, but not having a lot of electronics in the bedroom, you know, there's a lot of studies you can do on just the damage electronics in general can do to you, but especially you don't want it sitting by your phone or your laptop or iPad sitting right next to your head when you're sleeping. So limiting the electronics, like Megan said, at night, even removing those from the room if you can. We
both don't have our phones in the room with us.
Yeah, and just really making sure that, you know, the room is as comfortable as possible, if you know, as dark as possible, the right temperature. A lot of people like it cooler at night. So making the environment, again, making it easy for you to go to sleep. And sleeping is probably the biggest, out of what we've talked about so far right now, my biggest focus, because it's difficult for me to turn my brain off at night. And it's difficult because I also feel like, okay, I've worked all day. I want some time for myself to be able to either work on some projects I'm working on or just relax. And so then you have to, well, I'm either gonna stay up too late, or I'm gonna need to give that up and go to bed early. And especially for us that we don't have kids right now, we don't have that necessarily that pull of, oh, I have to go to bed at a certain time, and I have to get the kids down, and I'm gonna have to wake up. We have a little bit more flexibility in that, and so it's another thing that I don't get the sleep I need, probably because I'm still battling with that. So that's something I'm trying to focus on. But it, like Megan said, it is so important. Not just, it really affects a lot of things about our health, because that's the time our body is using to recover. Our brains need that time to recover. Our bodies need that time, especially if you're working out like you need to be, to recover and regenerate. And it's just so important that we get that sleep that we need every night and make it consistent as possible, like you said.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have a whole thing that I put together because I have a sleeping disorder called narcolepsy. And so because of that, I've had to get really creative with sleeping, because I have my own issues. Matt has his set of challenges. I have a different set. And so finding what your challenges are, and then, you know, just Google something or contact us, and we have a lot of different strategies that we've used over the years, and that have been really helpful. You can see a sleep therapist. I've even seen a sleep therapist, and she gave me some strategies about going to bed and about helping me mentally prepare for bed, and then also waking up. So having that system in place, there's even hormones that are being released and different things at night that you need. So just really don't underestimate the importance of that element of your routine. So, I mean, I know we've gone a little bit longer in this video, and I hope you guys got something really just valuable out of this. like we've said, we're open book about all this stuff. We're definitely not experts, but these are just some things that we found that it's so important to have this healthy lifestyle, because it's really going to be helping you to feel like you're actually starting to make some headway instead of feeling like you're behind all the time. You're actually going to hopefully have some more energy and feel like you're happier and more awake and can show up better for the world and for yourself and for your family in general. And, I also want to encourage you to think about not just you and not just how this is going to affect you. Think about how it's going to affect your spouse, how it's going to affect your kids, how it's going to affect your grandchildren, how it's going to affect your parents. When you start to live a healthier lifestyle, it affects the people around you in usually a positive way, because they see you doing that and then they say, oh, it's more possible for me to do that. Or they're like, oh, that's so cool that they have so much more energy now. I want to do something that like they're doing. And so don't underestimate the influence that you have over other people when it comes to living a healthy lifestyle. That alone can make a really huge impact on other people. So
definitely.
Do you have anything else?
Yeah, I was gonna say, just trying to, again, I guess my takeaways are knowing your why. Like, why do I want to be healthier? So I can spend more time with my spouse, so I can play with my kids, so I can live a longer life, so I can accomplish these goals. Why, and also I think sometimes we get caught up in our feelings, and I don't feel like I can eat healthy, I don't feel like I can exercise. Like, we've talked about this before, but you don't have to believe your feelings. Pick a different feeling. You can eat healthy and you can exercise. Now, maybe you're going to need to get some help. Maybe you're going to need a coach or a doctor to help you, but you can do these things, and they're important that you do them. And then I think also something that we don't talk about a lot, and something to think about, is how does my health tie into my spirituality? How is me being a healthier person in all the areas we've talked about going to help me be a more effective Christian? How am I going to be able to impact and live larger in that community because I'm living healthy? And that's not something we talk about a lot, and we don't really have time to talk about tonight. But I would ask
maybe another session.
ask you to consider how you're showing up in your Christianity because of your health. Yeah, so I think that's something to consider as well.
Yeah, so true, and really, really important. So I hope you guys have a great night, and we just so enjoy being able to be with you all. So
thank you guys for watching. Have a great week.
Yeah, take care.